Hello and welcome back on my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again for Freebook Friday.
Wait, what is this genre? Whatever.
Freebook Friday is a series where I combine two of my favorite things. One thing is to be on the look and find those amazing reads that are available for free to everyone out there. And the other thing is to work with amazing other content creators and collaborate and do this fun stuff. I have been enjoying the series so much so far, and I hope you have been too. And today I have another amazing guest. Let's get her here.
Hi! How are you?
Do you just want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Anna. I have a channel called The Book Dreamer Sally. I'm The Book Dreamer Sally separated by dots on Instagram too. I have a Bookstagram account. And I'm The Book Dreamer 2 on Twitter. So I hope you can visit.
Awesome, thank you. So do you want to give a real quick synopsis of the book that we read together?
Okay, this is a YA fantasy, and it's the story of Aurora, who's a young girl who's 16 and was adopted when she was a little child, and she thought she was abandoned by her parents, but suddenly one day she's sold to a being in another world, and she discovers a whole world of magic and fantasy and who her real family is. I cannot tell you anything else, but let's say there's also friendship and love along the way.
Awesome, thank you so much for this synopsis. Okay, let's dive into discussing this book. Let's start chatting about the characters. What did you think of the characters in this book?
Well, I don't know how to put it, because I loved the characters, even the bad ones. I hated the bad ones, loved the good ones. I thought they were quite well built. Character building, I have nothing to say against it. Although they were quite stereotypical, so typical tropes for characters, but it never bothered me. I don't know what you think about that.
Very much so. I think that they were very stereotypical characters. They were very cliche, and I get turned off by that very immediately, but in this case, not so much. I can see how maybe somebody else who does not want these stereotypical characters could be turned off, but I would just definitely give it a go to check it out, because it felt well done and I enjoyed the characters overall. I think that our main character acted quite childish, and I remember us chatting along the way during the buddy read saying, hey, does she come across as 12 or 16? Because she's supposed to be 16, but then she acts very childish. She makes very stupid decisions and makes mistakes. Yeah. But the reason why it didn't annoy me as much was because the author did it intentionally, and the author actually wrote it like she was acting childish, or she even realized she was acting childish, but she got told off because she was acting childish or irresponsibly, or the author said even though she was acting childish, she did not get told off. So it was put in the right frame so that it wasn't stereotypical or just lazy writing. It was intentional, and it made sense for this puberty, hormonal character to act that annoying and stupid at times.
Exactly, that's what I mean. I thought she was too childish to be 16, but there was a moment in which she started realizing, especially when she starts basically taking responsibility for her own decisions. Then you see, oh, that's why. So everything seemed to have a purpose in the book.
Yep.
I totally agree with that.
And yeah, other than that, I felt like, and this is probably something that we're going to touch on quite a couple of times during this review, but I felt so strong Harry Potter vibes, being inspired by Harry Potter throughout this book. And I felt like a lot of characters were inspired by characters in Harry Potter, and it didn't bother me, but because it didn't feel copied. it felt inspired. So, for example, the best friends are a perfect image of how Hermione and Ron would act. Some of the dialogue, I felt like you could replace the names with Hermione and Ron, and it still would feel completely making sense in terms of the characters. I felt like there were a lot of side characters that completely felt inspired by Harry Potter, but weren't necessarily just copied. A good example for that is that in the very beginning we're meeting a Hagrid type of character that gives off that vibe, but he's actually not this big fluffy protector and friend to our main character, but he actually comes and collects her to bring her to the opposing side. And he's more of a opponent, more of a villain, but he's still giving me Hagrid vibes. So he's inspired by Hagrid. I'm so sure that this is inspired by Harry Potter. Everybody who tells me otherwise must be a liar. But made her own, you know?
Yeah, what I saw from those characters is that she didn't actually portray them fully in her own characters. I felt the author kind of mixed characteristics. So, for example, you had Vivienne, her best friend, had some Hermione-ish characteristics, but she wasn't like Hermione at all.
Yes,
because she
correct.
actually
Correct.
doesn't have, these great ability for magic that Hermione has, that she's, the greatest witch of her time. And, I just feel that she did it in a way that she put balance into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And she never brought a character fully and portrayed it in one of hers. She just took elements, the art characteristic for us, for readers, and even the Magic University, and then there's another one that is the Bad Magic University, like black magic, and I really loved this setting, and I thought everything was inspired on it.
Same.
But there's no element in which I felt she was completely copying
Yes.
anything at all, and I loved that because I found it so hard to make.
Absolutely. I felt like everything that I felt like was wrong with Harry Potter's characters. So I feel like there's actually a lot wrong with the character Harry itself. And she corrected it in my opinion. All the questionable things that Dumbledore did and the way Dumbledore treated Harry, and Dumbledore treated actually all of the houses, favoritism and all of these things, the way that people were raising and teaching Harry some things and what they let him get away with, the way that Harry behaved at times towards other people, also towards enemies. So the way that he behaved to Draco in the very beginning when Draco offered him friendship, all of this kind of was done better in this book. All the things that I was annoyed with in Harry Potter, Farrah did well. So the author kind of made this better for me in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference here in that it's a female. Normally females, well, there's on one side she's supposed to be 16 from the beginning, and on the other side, females at 16 normally behave differently, tend to be more mature. But yeah,
Harry was also younger in the first book, so that might not be comparable, but still, Harry Potter, from my perspective, was a snotty brat that got away with way too many things and was praised for it.
yeah. He actually, it is said throughout the book in many occasions that you're like your father, and all the time his father's portrayed as that, as a brat, as someone who, shows up and needs attention.
Yeah, you're right. I think that we're kind of already moving on into the plot storyline. It's kind of both going into the same thing. So let's just touch on the storyline as well real quick. What did you think about the storyline?
I loved the storyline. I never felt it was rushed at all. Actually,
True.
There's something I loved, and is that sometimes you feel like the story is somehow being manipulated, so everything turns out being perfect. Actually, I never felt anything like that. Like, I felt it was logical. it made sense within the world she was portraying, of course. And I loved the pace at which secrets were revealed, let's say, and the pace at which she was changing step by step. And I thought the storyline was just done even better, if you want to call it, than the writing style itself.
I tend to agree. I'm a little bit hesitant about saying that because I feel like the storyline wasn't really unique. The storyline was nothing that blew my socks off. It was very stereotypical and tropey. Just as we said, the characters are very stereotypical. So I would have wished for a little bit more originality. Also, I have learned when researching this book that the writer is actually Indian. So she lives in Mumbai, India. And I feel like the storyline is very European fantasy, similar to Harry Potter. And I would have wished for a little bit more of a unique influence that she could have brought to this book. Maybe this book is just an homage to Harry Potter. I don't know. I just felt like the plot was absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. I just would have wished for a little bit more originality, a little bit more uniqueness. Maybe we're getting that later in the trilogy, but right now it felt very inspired by what's currently out there, but nothing new to the table. So let's chat about the writing style. What did you think of the writing style?
I liked it. I thought it was very easy to read, but there were a couple of things that were repeated constantly or regularly throughout the book that made me a bit, that again feeling. And she said like ice chips. Ice chips. Like when you close your eyes that you're suspicious or angry. She used ice like ice chips, and
I didn't even notice that.
around 10 times she has an obsession with that chip, ice chips, throughout the book. But in general, I thought it was well written. I thought it was easy to read, but not too easy, so you felt it was a middle grade. The writing style was fine for a YA audience. Appropriate, never used too simple words. I liked the way she explained things within the writing style, like the way she was explaining things. I thought it was easy to differentiate every character's sense of humor and every character's own speaking style, if you can call it like that. What did you think about the characters and writing style?
I enjoyed the writing style for very similar reasons. I felt like it was very easy to digest and just get lost in, and very approachable for it's the right thing for a YA audience. It felt like she did not make so much of an effort to be very overly lyrical or anything, and I don't need that in a book. I felt like that at times she was, again, very stereotypical, very tropey, but I didn't even mind the letting the breath out she didn't know she was holding. I didn't mind it at all, but it was in there, so yeah. But it was okay, that's true. Okay, so what are the things that you didn't like as much about the book? Let's talk about the bad stuff here.
I don't think there was anything I could grab and said, really? I thought, yes, there were a couple of decisions that were made that I didn't find appropriate, as we have said, for character of 16. I thought she was, again, more like 12 years old. But I feel uncomfortable with what happened with the love story.
Okay.
I cannot say anything, but I know you know what I mean. But I liked it at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate that they show what life is. They show life is good and bad at the same time.
Yeah.
There are good things and bad things, and good positive and negative aspects of the same event. So that I appreciate a lot. But aside from being very tropey, what we have mentioned, I believe, like saying that we really need something original. That's what I miss the most. What about you?
No, that's my main critique is that it just did not feel original. It did not feel special, which sometimes it's fine to get exactly what you know. I mean, everybody who goes and watches a romantic Hallmark movie does not necessarily expect to get something new, something completely different, but it is kind of the knowing the familiar thing that you're getting, but done in a familiar way so that you can trust you're getting a certain quality. But for me personally, I think that I might forget this book because it was unoriginal. No matter how well written it is, if it doesn't have an aspect that I keep bringing up because it has been shocking, it has been different, then I will most likely forget it. And I feel no matter how good this book is, it might be a tiny bit forgettable.
Yeah, I don't think I'll forget it because I've never seen let's say an adaptation done so masterfully. So I think that's what will stick with me.
So you're saying an adaptation, so you're calling it a Harry Potter retelling adaptation?
That's why I said if you can call it like that. I don't think it's exactly a retelling, but it's going that way, yeah.
Kind of, yeah. No, I kind of like the idea of calling it a retelling because a retelling can go completely different ways and just takes elements that inspired it. And I think a really good retelling for me does bring something different to the table. And if we would characterize it as a Harry Potter retelling where it has none of the main storyline, like the storyline doesn't have anything to do with the first Harry Potter books. I think the only thing that it might have in common is I think that some elements might be inspired by the Horcruxes.
And the parents.
But
the losing your parents when you're very young.
Well, yeah, these tropes. Yeah. Other than that, everything else is a little bit different, but a good retelling would do that for me,
yes.
At least. And so, yeah, if you would market this as a Harry Potter retelling, I would love that. But yeah, then I wouldn't...
Okay, let's market.
Yeah, because then I wouldn't say the originality is an issue for me. Right now, the originality is an issue for me. If this was if you would consider this a Harry Potter retelling, then I would find it quite original because it changes enough things to be not the same. So what did you like best about the book?
What I like best is I'm not so sure. There's a character I love that I think you know who it is. Rafi or Rafe. I never knew how to pronounce it.
I think it's Rafe. There's actually an audiobook out for this book, and I listened into the audiobook because it's available on Script, and they pronounce it Rafe.
Okay, so I loved Rafe. I think that was my favorite character. I like the idea of being the one, being part of a group, a certain social group, but defending others. I don't know if you... I don't want to say much.
Yeah.
And the other thing I loved is, as we said before, that nothing is perfect. There's no perfection in the story. There's no event that is perfect. There's no person, no character that's perfect. That makes everything relatable to me.
I agree.
What about you?
Yeah, I think that there was some realness about it. I think that even though the author took a lot of tropes and took a lot of stereotypical things and mashed it all up, I felt like every single trope and every single stereotype was done very intentional. And sometimes they took tropes and characteristics and kind of, I felt like, mocked them a little bit. So we have like the insta-love trope, but the insta-love trope, the author is mocking it a little bit by dramatizing how our main character is like, oh my god, swooning about this person like right away, but then also realizes how she's acting childish, and then some reality checks coming her way. Also things like her just doing very childish and risky things and being told off. And in one situation, even the I was again reminded of Harry Potter going into the forest or something, or sneaking off into the city and coming back, being found out and being told off by Dumbledore, but Dumbledore just being like, "Oh, bad boy," but you found out something good, so I'm not actually telling you off that much. In this book, we had actual consequences to the stupidity, and I think it was the uncle at that point who had kind of the Dumbledore figure and was like, well, guess what? You do stupid shit, you have consequences, and that's what you have to learn. And there was a lot of realness in this fantasy world for some reason, and I really appreciated that. So even though it's not real at all, and it is over the top at sometimes, and it is dramatic, and it is a 16-year-old sometimes acting like a 12-year-old, or just being dramatic and swooning and lovey-dovey shit, there were all of the time, there were these little instances that I just appreciated so much.
Yes, I totally agree with you in that. Like those relatability not only to the characters, but also to the story itself, to the events, the behavior.
Let's move into the rating. What did you end up rating this book?
I rated this book quite high, actually. I rated this book 4.5 stars.
Oh, wow. I rated 4 stars, which is high for me too, but I was so happy to finally have a 4-star free book.
I was thinking the same, like, yes, we can prove it's possible.
Yes. Actually, when I researched this later a little bit, it seems that it was available on Wattpad for a while and it has gone and won some awards. So I don't know why it's available for free, but it has won some awards. So that's pretty cool.
I need the second one.
Yes.
I need the second one.
I want to
now.
continue reading too. All right. So on 3. 1, 2, 3. What a surprise after this. That we're both going to give it a read. I mean, obviously you need to be a fantasy reader, I guess, to want to read this.
Of course. I find it a nice approach to fantasy, even if you want to look at it like that for YA readers.
Yeah, that's true. All right. I mean, this is it for today. I loved having you here. I mean, anytime you want to do this again, hit me up. And that is also out for you outside there watching this. If you want to read something and hop on my channel and do this Freebook Friday review with me, just hit me up. I would love to have you. So just reach out. And if you enjoyed this, give it a little thumbs up. Put us down in the comments if you've read this and enjoyed it, or after this review if you're going to pick it up or if you're not going to pick it up. We would be really interested in hearing that. And other than that, all that's left to say is that before you end watching BookTube today, go head on over to her channel and check her out, subscribe, watch all the videos, and then I hope to see you back for the next Freebook Friday. Thanks again for joining me, and goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Just loving